I'm parked up, so I thought I could do another live. Um, but yeah, I wanted to talk about accountability and how important it is and how it will change your life. So I spoke about breath, change your life, and I want to talk about accountability, how that can change your life as well. And I think we live in a world where it's so easy to pass the blame on anything you're going through. And an example would be if you're with someone and let's say they cheated on you, it would be very easy to blame that person because they did a thing and it's affected you. But ultimately, we are in full control of uh, the way we are affected by things. So if you can change that, then ultimately you hold the power. You give your power away when you're affected by the things that people do that may that you feel has affected you. So if someone cheats on you, for example, like I said, it's very easy to pass that blame because it's their fault. They did the thing. They were meant to be committed. Um, but and then after that, let's say, for example, you split up with that person, you then move on very fast. Then you get with somebody else, the same thing happens again, or they treat you in a particular way. And the cycle keeps going and the cycle keeps going. And then very often, what happens is people then turn around and say, whichever person you're going with, like whether it's a man or female, they say that they don't treat you good or all they do is cheat. But to be accountable is a completely it's the next level. To be accountable would be okay, well, if that person's done this thing, take it as a sign, you can move on. But the moving on would be mindful about how fast you get into the next relationship. Be mindful about how much time you spend with yourself. Are you spending enough time with yourself? Are you running into a relationship with somebody else because you don't have a relationship with yourself? That's one of the key takeaways. Are you jumping into relationships because you don't have a relationship with yourself? And ultimately, everything stems from the inside outwards. we tend to look for things we tend to look for things outside of ourselves that we haven't nurtured within ourselves. So if you're looking for happiness, people look for happiness outside of themselves because it hasn't been cultivated internally. And I would say that I'm a happy person, but my happiness doesn't mean that I have to smile from cheek to cheek and showing all my teeth all day long. It's an internal happiness. It's an internal happiness that I don't have to explain to anyone. But because I'm well in tune with myself, and this has been a journey. I've had my own life experiences, as we all do. But it's how you get up from them. Are you gonna be more accountable for what's happening in your life? If you want change and you can create change, then what are you going to do to do this? It's about being mindful. It's about being, having that self-awareness. And yes, we may not have the self-awareness to be accountable yet, but when you are accountable and when you are self-aware, the only way up the only way up is up. You can only grow from being accountable and self-aware. So these are two things that I would highly recommend everybody to cultivate: being more aware, being more accountable. So as I said already before, if you're someone that maybe suffered with a breakup, maybe you've someone's passed away in your life, and you're finding it hard, the grief, you haven't had the time to really grieve the deaths. Maybe someone's passed away for quite a long time, and you're struggling, you're finding it hard to get to that next step, get to that next level, be free from not the burden of the death or anything like that, but to free yourself from, I guess, that experience, then yeah, you have to. I guess it's a hard one because everyone experiences things in a different way, but ultimately, I would say growing is to be accountable and to have that self-awareness. And yes, you're gonna have to sit through it, and it can be a lonely journey. It can feel very isolating. And I remember when I've experienced so much death, all I want to do is be alone, because I was very aware to know that if you're alone in the hardest, rawest times and you can get through that, then you can get through anything. It's very easy for, to have people around you. If you have been, if you're fortunate to have people around you to support you at times, it's great. But the problem that occurs often is when these people go, how are you gonna live? So yes, you can have the support of people, but when it's time to go home, when it's time to sit with yourselves, how is that for you? So I found that the best method of getting through things for me is to really sit with myself in these raw situations. Grand Rising Sky, thank you for joining. Um, but yeah, so accountability is everything. You got to be accountable. You know, I always match accountability with self-awareness, but I would say that I guess you can have one without the other, but ultimately you want to be able to mirror these two things. So if you have one of them, you're halfway there of getting the other one. But if you have none of them, then it's a learning journey, and you will continue to have experiences in life that's going to reflect to you what needs to be worked on. But if you keep passing the blame, it's going to be hard for you to identify and hard for you to see what needs to be done. So yeah, accountability is showing up for yourself. If you're a people pleaser, maybe the people pleasing comes from, a lot of the traumas that we have stem from childhood. Maybe you wasn't acknowledged when you was younger. Maybe you felt left out when you was younger, whether it's in school, whether it's from like parents. Maybe you've always felt like you've had to prove yourself to others. And once you're able to heal that, once you're able to acknowledge that and be self-aware about that, you will grow and you will then start to nurture from within. And when you've nurtured that from within, you will no longer be seeking the approval from other people. May I try you? I won't keep you long. Totally up to yourself. Good to have a good, nice day. Anyway, uh, so yeah, be accountable for your life. So if you're a people pleaser, then it obviously maybe it's about looking in and looking back to see where this stems from, where this not where this need for pleasing others comes from. And another thing that people do is, saying yes when really they want to say no. And saying no is looked at as a thing of um rejection, um and not being approved. If you say no, if someone offers you to, or says to you, do you want to do a particular thing, and you say no, maybe it's hard for you to say no because you feel like if you say no, then are they going to still be my friend? Are they still going to be around? But the way I show up, I probably say no more than I say yes. And the people that are around me know me enough to know that when I say no, it's not malicious, um it's out of love and respect for myself. But if you're someone that's finds it hard to say no, there's different ways of communicating that. You can say it in a way, and if you're self-aware, this is where the self-awareness comes in. If you're self-aware enough to know how people around you communicate or have an understanding of where they're at in their own life, then you will be able to communicate things in a particular way. So if you know that, you know, someone is depressed or has anxiety and you want to show up for them, but at this particular moment of time, you don't want to, then maybe you can communicate in a way and say, hey, thank you for acknowledging, thank you for wanting to involve me in a particular thing. But right now is not a good time, but can we reschedule for whatever day it may be? And that's not you rejecting them. Maybe the person that's asking you to do a particular thing has a hard time with rejection. So you're not rejecting them. You're proposing a new date or a new offering. And if you want to disclose as to why you don't want to do a particular thing, maybe you can be open and honest about it. And you can also, in that same breath, you can say how much you enjoy spending time with them. But you just don't feel up for it right now because you may have some things going on in your own life. So it's about being able to communicate that, and that's where self-awareness comes in. So yeah, awareness, self-awareness, but yeah, ultimately being accountable for you. You came here alone, you're gonna go alone. I'm all about community, I'm all about sharing, but you have to be accountable. If you're not liking something right now, if something's already happened, the only thing you can do is accept the thing that's happened. Many people live a life of repeat or a life of living in the past. There's a quote that I'm gonna leave you with, and it's by someone called Lao Tzu. It says, if you're living in the past, you're living in depression. If you're living in the future, you're living in anxiety. But if you're living in the present, you're living in peace. And yeah, I'll leave you with that one. So maybe you can identify where you're living at. And that's a real quick way and easy way to be able to identify where you sit on that scale. But yeah, thank you all for joining. If you're new here, thank you for joining. Thank you for subscribing. I don't pre-record videos. All my videos are live. You're gonna get these videos in the raw, pure form. I don't edit them to make them picture perfect. But if you're someone that is a truth seeker, someone that's interested in the topics that I talk about, then yeah, this channel is definitely for you. So if you've managed to catch it and you're still here, or you're going to watch it back on the save, well, I'm going to save the video for you to watch it back if you wish. But yeah, thanks for joining, and I hope you have a great day ahead.